Hey, welcome back to the NorthWoods Church Matters Podcast. This is Bobby Pell. I'm the lead pastor of NorthWoods Church and the continuing guest host of the NorthWoods Church Matters Podcast until we can figure out how I can resign from that position. So that's sort of the deal around here. I'm really glad to be able to address today's topic. This is going to be a ball of fun, okay? So I am in the room with Bob Weeks.
Hey, good morning. Good afternoon.
Rachel Bland.
Hi, guys.
Ryan Moore.
Hello.
This is being shot on Tuesday, June 16th at 11:08 a.m. as I am live and in person. We got back from the SBC convention in Orlando. I got back last Wednesday evening and have had a couple of events. Thursday was Darren's reception for his retirement party. Then, of course, we had Sunday. And at everything I go to, I'll have someone up to 3, 4, 5 who are asking questions about what happened at the SBC. Hence, we did a pre-SBC convention podcast. This is now the post-SBC convention podcast to address really some of the things that you may hear in the media or on Facebook or what have you. And so I'm going to walk through this with some of these. So Rachel and Ryan and I were there. Bob was there I
watched online.
He watched online. And to be honest, he probably saw more in the room stuff than what I did.
Business.
Yeah, or the actual business.
That's right.
Because I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I was in the exhibit hall a boatload. Okay, so just for those of you who were there, you guys, how was the SBC convention?
Yeah, it was fun. I feel very prepared to talk about Disney World and Universal Studios, I'll be honest with you. I did go to the convention. I did enjoy my time there. I had fun reconnecting with friends and seminary professors and fellow seminarians and pastors. Relationally, it was a good trip. And also ministry-wise, was able to find some things that are happening in the world of missions that we're considering. But I enjoyed my time. I really did.
Yeah, so let's follow up on that just a little bit. On the mission stuff, can you give people just an ounce of a taste of what you potentially saw that we may or may not be interested in?
Yeah, certainly. When I go to that, I'm looking for, because church planting is so near and dear to the heart of who NorthWoods is, I'm looking for church planting opportunities and to find out where is God at work. And so I connected with a church planter who's planting in Virginia, very close to where the IMB offices are.
International Mission Board.
The International Mission Board, thank you. And that particular church plant is a couple of years old. They are reaching a segment of the population similar to what we would reach if we were located in downtown Evansville, if that helps color that a little bit. But they run kind of a rehabilitation house through that ministry and really saw some areas where we can connect church planting, but also other ways of ministry in the future as well that I think may be really interesting and worthwhile for the church. And so connected with the church plant there, connected with some church planting that's happening in Canada, connected with a church plant in Pennsylvania as well. And so really some neat opportunities that's producing conversations for me on this end as I'm back home now.
Great.
I love going to the SBC. Relationships are just so fun because you get to see everybody that you may not necessarily run into just across the U.S. and stuff. And so I got to see a friend that I went to college with at WKU who is now pastoring a church in Kentucky. And so that's always fun. And then I do some state work with Indiana, and I'm a women's ministry state connector for SCBI right now. And that's produced some opportunities to just meet other women's ministry leaders across the U.S. And so got to hang out with some of my friends from South Carolina, North Carolina, Louisiana, Kentucky, Illinois. And then because of that, then you just make relationships with different directors. So Catherine Renfro is the women's evangelism leader for the North American Mission Board. So getting to see her, getting to see Andrea Lennon, who's the women's ministry, she's the director of women's ministry for Lifeway. And then her co-partner is Alicia Wong, and she does all of the training for women. And so just getting to hear and rub shoulders and talk together with these other ladies is just always an encouragement. And I love getting to see all of them. And so we constantly are always like, where can we take a selfie? And then getting to see them. And then since I just graduated from NOBTS last year.
New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary.
Yep. There's a lot of acronyms we use
Yes, we do.
in the SBC land. I was trying really hard to not say them.
I understand.
I definitely did.
I understand.
So getting to see, like you said, old professors and that kind of thing, and just get to hear from even Tara Dew, who's Jamie Dew's wife, the seminary president of New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, and getting to talk to her. And it's just an encouraging time to just hear. You also get to meet people connect with people that you didn't expect to connect with. And Bobby and I got to have a couple of those different opportunities with just people who are leading churches bigger than NorthWoods, and just getting to learn and understand how we can learn from each other. And so even for me, just being in the exhibit hall produced opportunities to connect with other churches. And so I've already reached out to one of the churches who's larger than us on how we can better connect people to NorthWoods. And so excited about that conversation that's coming up as well. And there's more of those coming too. So it was just fun.
You know, as I hear you guys talk about the relationships that you renewed and the good time that you had, I want to remind the people in Northwoods that all of these connections, this networking, is something that comes back and impacts us, because while it's fun, at the same time, we learn so much as we talk to other people in the practice of ministry. What are you doing and how does it work? And what are you doing that isn't working? And so those conversations are so powerful. So as you're listening to this, I don't want you to think that you sent these folks off on vacation and that's all that they did. And it was just, no, everything that they've talked about other than Ryan going to Disney World was work. It was work.
Yeah, yeah.
Which Bobby and I went to Disney World too, let's be honest.
The folks that were at church last Sunday found that out. But I 100% agree with that. What the hiring of Michael Graining happened through networking.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of what you do is, this should sound to you, if you're listening to it, like a family reunion. Is what we have the opportunity to go to once a year, because it is family. And the longer you go, the more family you meet. But there is and by the way, there's a blessing and a curse to family reunions, just in general. Okay. But the blessing to family in this case is not only are you able to develop a depth of relationship, but that relationship, especially if it's with the right folks, it really becomes a learning group. And that's a huge win. Huge win. All right. So broad question. What are y'all hearing from people about the SBC convention that was false? That's a very simple question, but there's a lot. When I came back, I was shocked all the stuff that was going on.
SBC hates women.
SBC hates women.
That's
exactly.
everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I cannot believe Rachel and Kennedy are in the room
how can
again.
Or that I have a microphone.
Or that you have a microphone.
It's not on.
Exactly.
As I was preparing for this podcast, you gave us these questions, and I Googled what happened at the SBC this year. And one of the first few results on the front page was titled, "Women, It's Time to Run from the SBC."
Wow.
Generally, that's all that you're hearing, is that the Southern Baptist Convention hates women, and that is just not true.
Yeah, that's right.
And interesting about all that stuff, too, much of the talk is not coming from people within the SBC. Yeah. It's outsiders talking about what they weren't a part of, haven't prayed about. And I'm not sure if they're trying to drive in wedges in the SBC, but that's where it's coming from.
Yep.
Yeah. Just as I think of NorthWoods and the women that are here and how valuable they are to our church, the great ministry that takes place. We're having a team that's going to Peru this year to serve on mission. And the reason that I asked Rachel to be as a part of this team and help lead this team is because of the giftedness that the Lord has given her, that she is gifted in ways that I am not gifted. And so I need help in thinking through things, and her brain just works differently. Diane Edwards is leading a team to Ecuador this year, and Diane is a very capable leader and is going to do great on the mission field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think NorthWoods in general is the opposite of a lot of SBC churches. And I get to talk to women all across the country in their roles and the experience that they have with working with guys. And NorthWoods is just unique in the sense of we really do work well together, like from male and female relationships. We rub shoulders together. We sharpen each other. I'm thinking yesterday, even in our staff meeting, we were listing out scriptures that were in line with the 4 L's of a growing disciple. And
Which was so much fun.
it was a lot of
It was.
fun. I'm sure you'll hear more about that in the podcast and at church later. But you had guys and girls thinking through passages of scripture that would help equip a disciple or a new believer even in that. And I just love the unity that we're all after together and the way that we work together. It's not, oh, the guys are better than the girls, and then you don't have this domineering personality from the girls where the girls are trying to be better than the guys.
You're not trying to take authority.
Yeah.
And to the same degree, I don't believe that we're trying to lord over you.
Right.
In the end, everybody understands we have roles to do.
Right.
And we're functioning in those roles.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a win. I really appreciate the heart of this conversation because I think you need to hear that when you see stuff that's anti-women, that was not the vote. And I want to be very clear. I actually sent someone a Facebook message who I knew who stated on the Al Mohler Truth and Unity Amendment to the Southern Baptist Convention Constitution, they actually stated that we voted on the old amendment before it was changed by Al.
Okay, yeah.
And I just sent them a private message saying, what you said is wrong. This is how it's been. And it was received very well by the person. So let's move to that because we talked about this in the pre-convention SBC piece, which is the Truth and Unity Al Mohler piece. It would be that he's the person who presented it, that there would be a convention constitution change. Basically, women cannot be in the role or function of pastor. The way it used to say was it used to be such as, and we didn't like that term such as because it opened up all kinds of what's that going to mean, but such as preaching to the congregation, the assembled congregation. He changed it
Literally that day.
literally
after the
that day of the
Right.
podcast
Yeah.
to specifically move from such as to specifically the preaching of the assembled congregation. And we actually said in our podcast, we'd be really a lot better if he would just change this language. Then he did. You and I, Rachel, had a conversation about, like, I'm good with this. Like, I think this is a fit for really what we believe. We don't believe that ladies are to be in the role of pastor, the function, as long as it became more clear.
Specifically preaching on a Sunday.
Specifically preaching on a Sunday. I think we're good with ladies are not supposed to be taking the authority of preaching to the congregation on a Sunday morning. And so I think that became a whole lot better of an amendment. And to be honest, I think for ladies in the SBC, it's the best possible scenario because it could have gone down a much more difficult pathway that became unspecific and vague and who knows what it means. This allowed there to be a certain level of specificity.
So Baptist Faith and Message 2000 has stated this thing very plainly for, 26 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between having it in the Baptist Faith and Message and then moving it to a constitutional amendment? Help our people understand what that is.
Baptist Faith and Message is what we believe. And you are supposed to, if you're a Southern Baptist church, you're supposed to be able to sign off and say, we agree with the Baptist Faith and Message 2000. It's a part of our NorthWoods class that when we point people to what do we believe as a church, basically there's a section at the end of the booklet that I point them to, and it's a copy and paste of the Baptist Faith and Message 2000. That's what churches are Southern Baptist churches are supposed to be doing. When they put it in the Constitution, it helps the credentials committee to be able to understand who can seat messengers or not. And that's really what the Constitution is designed for, and that there began to be some questions about who can seat messengers at the convention.
Mm-hmm.
The Constitution ad is what really is there to help the credentials committee because now they have to go through that process.
So in many ways, as we look at this is a procedural
Exactly.
thing.
It doesn't change what we believe.
No, that's the point I'm trying to make is that this has blown up as if it's a Mount Vesuvius kind of explosion. And it really isn't.
Yes. Yeah. What the convention walked into believing before it started last Tuesday is what it believed coming out of the convention. There was nothing new that they believed before going in. Let's read the Baptist Faith and Message statement. While both men and women are gifted for service in the church, the office of pastor, elder, overseer is limited to men as qualified by Scripture.
Boom.
I mean, it is stated, and we've believed that since year 2000.
Right.
What this does is it gives a statement very similar with an ounce of specificity and puts it in the Constitution, which, by the way, has to be voted on. This is another thing that no one says on the internet. Has to be voted on 2 years for it to be effective.
And nothing's happened yet.
Nothing's happened yet. This year it was voted on. It passed by almost 75% vote. Has to pass by a minimum of 2/3. So next year, if it doesn't pass by 2/3, it doesn't even happen.
Right.
Okay. And so it's got to pass next year for it to become in effect. So I just think that there's a lot of stuff that people walked out. And I had a conversation with my sister. Shout out to you, Darlene. But I had a conversation with my sister, and the way everything's presented is it's done.
Yeah.
Well, it's not done. No. As a matter of fact, it's not even in the Constitution yet.
There was hardly any discussion about it when it all boils down.
I told Darlene, I said, they talked more about why are we going to Anaheim
in 2030
than they did the Truth and Unity Amendment. Rachel and I, and Ryan, our families, we were all sitting near each other during this. The whole debate lasted less than 10 minutes before there was a vote. I mean,
and you get 15 minutes to debate until someone basically says it's time for a vote.
That's right.
Or I would like to motion for us to start a vote. And then that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
Which I was telling Bobby, I said, I feel like this is going to be cut short. Even before we got in there, I said, I think someone's going to, because Al Mueller has to get up and he has to defend his amendment or present it again and then explain the necessity why he believes that this is needed. And then I actually think Bobby and I were sitting there talking and we said, man, we liked his explanation of what he was saying a whole lot better than even what was written, because it was much clearer. And he's basically saying, hey, look, like the heart behind this is just Sunday morning. And I think from a women's ministry, I have some really good friends who are super torn on this conversation. And I understand the why, and it really is the function side of this thing, because they're looking at it as like they're almost skeptical. And I understand the skepticism because I have also felt that, because you kind of feel like, are we under attack? Are you not wanting us to be like, we're not trying to preach on a Sunday morning. Like that's not our heart. That's not our goal. And so then they're also trying to think about what other functions are you going to come out against? Yeah.
Kind of
yeah. And so then, and especially when the podcast statement was made, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't stick the toothpaste back in the tube. And so he did make that statement. And so there is some still questions and concerns about what it is. But Al Mueller did a press conference even after the amendment was passed. And the article was super helpful. And it really does sound as if his heart is genuinely just preaching on a Sunday morning. And I think that from a theological perspective, I absolutely agree with that. Do I still have some questions about the function and all of that kind of stuff? Yeah. And I think in time, more and more, hopefully there's more clarity with all of that. And I do think the question that I've been asking myself, is this the best that it can be? And if this is the best that it can be, then I could see myself getting behind it. You know what I mean? But it is one of those things where you're trying to still navigate all of these other questions in your head. And with debate being cut short, you don't get to hear some of those answers to the questions.
Yeah, and for those of you who weren't able to be there, Al Mueller made a presentation. One person spoke against it. One person spoke for it, and it was over. Mm-hmm. That was it. And so,
keeping in mind that it doesn't get voted on until next year, where it comes back up.
That's right.
That's where if there's going to be intense debate, it's going to happen then.
That's right. So you may be asking, well, if that only lasted 10 minutes, then what happened for the rest? So let me give you sort of a broader story of the SBC. More than 263,000 people were baptized in Southern Baptist churches last year.
That's
More
awesome.
than 1 million have been baptized since COVID. 3,500 international missionaries serving around the world. In 2025, these missionaries shared the gospel 1.6 million times. More than 6,000 missionaries are serving across North America through the North American Mission Board. Almost 800 new gospel-centered churches planted last year, highest it has been in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Baptisms are on the increase for 5 consecutive years now. Send Relief, where Southern Baptists respond to disasters. In 2025 alone, more than 200,000 people were served, 84,000 gospel conversations last year that were tracked. And in 6 seminaries, we're training 19,000 students. Look, I think that you can sit back and listen to the media, and you can pause and go into all of that and say, oh, so that's what y'all talked about. No, that was 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
What I've just given you is the story of it. So let's jump back, because here's another thing that I just want to say that people are saying online, which is there was sexual abuse was out there. And it's like people have said, well, you're no longer addressing sexual abuse. And now the issue is you're going towards women in ministry. The Credentials Committee got up this year, and this was shocking to me. I will also say it was pleasant, shocking. 600 SBC churches were investigated over allegations of abuse compared to what ended up being 44 Southern Baptist churches investigated for potentially having a female pastor. 13 times the amount of investigations went into sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not ignoring it.
We're not ignoring it.
Yeah.
Saying that we are is inaccurate. And so you're going to basically see 2 kinds of headlines. We hate women and we're covering over abuse. We are the denomination that's not
That's right.
covering
That's right.
abuse. And we are the denomination that I would propose, at least I'd say here at NorthWoods, we honor women and serve alongside them. And I want to be a part of a denomination that has a biblical perspective on the topic. Those are just some facts that I wanted to make sure we said to the congregation that's listening.
And I want to add one more fact to that, is the new allocation of the cooperative,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
okay.
Yeah, that's right.
changing the International Mission Board, getting now 51%.
50%.
That's huge because it takes money to do missions.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it shows Southern Baptist's commitment to the gospel going forward.
That's right.
Right? For every dollar that is given, over half of that, a majority of it is going to the gospel, going to the nations,
That's right.
which is really something to be celebrated.
So in 2027 and in 2028, interestingly, you at NorthWoods could go to the Southern Baptist Convention and drive there.
That's right.
In 2027, it's in Indianapolis. In 2028, it's in St. Louis. So here's the question, guys. Why in tarnations would anybody want to go to someplace like Indianapolis or St. Louis to the Southern Baptist Convention, especially when it's not Disney?
Being able to sit in and the facts that you just read about everything that SBC life is involved in and the gospel presentations that are taking place and the salvations that have happened, if you come to the annual meeting, you have an opportunity to firsthand hear all of that, right? And there's just some great encouragement that goes with that.
Yeah, amen.
Well, I think one of the coolest things too is the IMB sending ceremony. That's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like a part of it, and basically
What is that?
So
help people get a picture
so
of that.
basically every missionary that's being commissioned, and they do it twice a year. I think they do it once at the annual meeting and then once maybe in the fall or something like that. And any missionary who is about to literally go and be on the mission field is presented. And so it's this really cool thing. If you are serving in a country where it's safe for you to be a known missionary, then they'll show your faces. But if it's a country where it's not safe, then they put up a screen with a backlight and you walk up on stage and you say your name or your destination of where you're going and why you feel like they answer a question basically.
And the missionaries
each year.
are in shadow.
Yeah. And so then each missionary is getting to say what God has stirred in their heart in order to go. And that is just, they play some really cool music behind it. And it's such a moving moment because you just see the Holy Spirit just at work. And you'll look around the audience and just see people just wiping tears from their eyes because these are people who have committed to moving. And we got to do that and celebrate that with Zach and Courtney last year.
That's right.
And then they also do, right after they do this stage presentation, all of these missionaries will go to different microphones, which is where they do these different motions or amendments and all this kind of stuff. I think there's 10 microphones or something like that. And so each missionary is going throughout the room, and then they do this prayer time over the missionaries. And it's just really this beautiful thing that is where you really get to see the work of the kingdom that's not in the minutia of the business.
That's right.
And contrary to what is being kind of said about the SBC, were there women missionaries talking and sharing what they were going to do?
Yes.
Single.
Yes.
Single
Single.
women missionaries.
It was incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at what we're reading in the press and you just go to that particular event at the SBC, it explodes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is literally my wife's favorite thing about the SBC. It's the reason why she goes whenever she has the opportunity. This year, I can't remember I think it was 63 families that were commissioned to go out. And they do this twice a year. Yeah, it is.
Three times a year.
Three times a year. Yeah.
It's just so cool. And that's one of those things that you can watch it online, but it's just a totally different experience being in
For somebody that's watched it online several years, to be present is the best. And one of the things, too, you've heard us talk about some of the silly arguments over whether we should go to Anaheim. And really, this thing with the amendment is such a small part that we've shared about that. And you kind of have to be careful not to get caught up in those little things and miss the big picture that's going on. And you really can only get that, as you said, in person.
Right. Some of the conversations I got to have even after the Truth and Unity Amendment was voted on were some of the most encouraging conversations. I had more men coming up to me this year, which that sounds weird, but they were coming up to just be an encouragement and just say, hey, we want you to know that you're important to the kingdom.
Yeah.
And then even just some of the girls, they were just like, Rachel, just keep your eyes on Jesus and just focus on him and continue running the race. Don't let your eyes be fixed on an amendment or a constitution, and do what God has called you to do and just keep running the race. And I think that's encouragement for everyone. Like, no matter who it is, man or woman, just keep your eyes on Jesus and do what he's called you to do.
Yeah. Some of the things that I would want, if you're listening and you're potentially thinking about going, keep these things in mind. One is the North American Mission Board has a lunch every year that's free. You just have to sign up for it, and it is extremely encouraging.
So good.
The International Mission Board has a dinner that's free every year. You just have to sign up for it. And if you choose to come to us and say, hey, I want to go, NorthWoods has the ability to take 12 messengers, which is the maximum amount any church can send. We will always take staff first to fill up the slots for both Indianapolis and St. Louis. But however many positions are left from that, I would love for us to go ahead and fill them up sooner rather than later so we know that you have interest. I'll never tell you how to vote.
That's true.
Straight. I'll never tell you how to vote. I will tell you, stay away from the microphone.
Yeah.
Don't make us look bad.
Do it.
Don't make us look bad. Stay away from the microphones, okay? But vote however way your conscience says to vote. All right. I would also say, so what happens if we fill up our 12? You can still go as a guest.
That's right. A couple of years ago when it was in Indianapolis, the Buzzles came.
Yeah.
And they were looking at schools for Ella at the time.
Yeah.
Because there's all the different seminaries are there, and it's sort of like a big college fair too. So if you are a student who's interested in going into mission work, or if you're a student who's interested in ministry, or even some of the schools are accredited, like teaching degrees and all of that kind of stuff. You can go and you can be a guest and you can still see the SBC. You just can't vote, and you can still do all the things.
Yeah, which is the other thing that I wanted to say, which is I spend a ton of my time in the exhibit hall working the booths for NorthWoods. And I walk away every year learning something, us thinking about something. And I would just say, if you just go for that, you're going to walk away meeting people and thinking about ministry in a way you haven't thought about it. That's a win. I would also say hooking up with one of the staff here at NorthWoods to walk through the exhibit hall would be really wise, because we're going to point things out to you. We're going to show you things that you would not fully understand. It's like having a tour guide.
Yeah.
Because the thing is huge.
It is huge. Yeah, it is.
It's so busy that if you're not...
This was Larry Lovelace's first year, and I'd love for any of you to ask Larry his perspective on it. but I can tell you he really enjoyed the exhibit hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's so big. I think we had 11,000 messengers. Now, there were a total of about 20,000 people that went total, but 11,000 messengers. 3,000 were just exhibitors.
Yep.
And so just talking about the size of
Yeah,
the
just
amount of
think about
people
that.
that are there,
Right. Yeah.
it fills up a room.
Yeah.
It fills up.
Yeah, it's massive. So I hope this has been beneficial for everyone. We weren't there with an attitude of, I cannot believe the SBC hates women, because that was not our attitude there. I'm not surprised that this is what the media is saying, but I just want to be clear. I do not believe the SBC does hate women. I also want to be clear that I believe the SBC is still addressing the sexual abuse issue through the Credentials Committee, that when things come to them that they're told to investigate, they investigate, and they're going through the process. Think about how little of an issue the female pastor issue is in comparison to the sexual abuse issue. 600 to 44. Okay, I understand why we're wanting to address both. I get it. But it's clear that just by the numbers, 600 is a lot more than 44. I'm good with addressing both, as long as we're doing it in a biblical and healthy way.
Yeah. I'm with
So thankful that y'all went, Ryan Moore, and thankful that y'all allowed me to go to Epcot with you on Sunday.
Yes.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Can we do a separate podcast on the rides, ranking them and rating them?
We're done.
Thanks for listening to NorthWoods Church Matters. You can learn more about NorthWoods Church at northwoodschurch.org or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at NorthWoods Church EVV.